Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Pucknology Writers Room episode number 3. Tonight, we are going to talk about the draft. We're going to do a bunch of cool stuff. We got a few things we're going to break down. We're going to talk about, obviously, what the Sharks did in the draft and give our feelings on our prospects, feelings on the picks. We're going to look at what the division did and see how we feel about how the rest of the division did. And then we're going to kind of give some winners and losers, and then we will turn it over to you in the question and answers. So hopefully everyone will be super happy campers, and it'll be awesome. So with me today, starting with my usual compadre would be Kevin Lacey, who has joined us again today. He is a Pucknology contributor.
Hey guys, for those of you who are wrestling fans out there, I discovered these shirts that some people were wearing at the draft over the last 2 days, and I think it's pretty awesome. So
I love it.
For you wrestling fans out there, Austin 2016 says, I just whipped your draft!
Nice. All right, and also joining us is the one, the only, the great Hockey Jerk.
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on today.
Oh, absolutely. No, this is going to be fun. All right, so, let's get started. We don't want to dilly-dally around a little bit here. Let's just start with, I just want to start with, some overall thoughts of the draft, because we kind of had a little chat going on about the draft before we went on air, and we thought we should save it for air, and I think we should probably get out of the way. What were you saying, Kevin? Tell the wonderful people at home what we were talking about before we so rudely interrupted them with a live show.
Well, I thought the NHL Network did a very solid job of covering the draft this year from top to bottom. Last year, I felt like day 2, most of the time day 2 is just a lot of blah, blah, blah. We're not actually going to talk about any of these guys because we don't know half of the people that just got drafted, which will probably end up being what our writer's room is today. But except Ian. Ian knows everybody in the draft.
No, not at all.
But NHL Network did a very good job of covering everything, and they actually focused on the players instead of just interviewing the same people, or not the same people, but interviewing players with the same questions over and over and getting that, I'm happy to be drafted and I'm going to give it my all and I'm going to try and make the team out of camp. Like, how many times do we have to hear that? So it was really refreshing to get a bunch of analysts to actually talk about certain players, and even like 6th round every now and then they'd be like, tell us about this guy, and they did a great job.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the thing that I kind of pointed out too that I was really impressed with this year was that last year when I watched the second day, they would just do recaps of this is, here's Connor McDavid going to the podium, here's Dylan Strome going to the podium, here's whatever, and just Jack Eichel, and it just, to me, they didn't do that this year, and that was great because, yeah, obviously, they didn't give you, you had to kind of still pay attention to the board, but at the same time, they didn't just, you didn't miss 15 picks so you could rewatch highlights from the night before.
Right, and they didn't throw Rob Gronkowski in the highlight package.
Right. And it was good because, obviously, you're going to get, the C team or D team, on day 2 of the draft, right? It's not, you're not getting Bob McKenzie and, Pierre Maguire and all those guys for day 2, even though Pierre Maguire should probably be there the whole time because he's, he knows. You think I know everything. Pierre Maguire is the real hockey robot. An annoying hockey robot, but a hockey robot nonetheless.
Sure,
so,
that's right.
I like that. I thought the second day coverage was probably the best I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
What about you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you guys, both of you, off here, but I was going to say, as someone who's only had access to day 2 coverage for the last 3 or 4 years, this was easily the best coverage they've had. What about you, Hockey Jerk?
I was going to say, and you both touched on it too, I really like how they made it a point to say, hey, there's still people being picked. We're not going to just totally blow them off. Mm-hmm. My viewing of it was kind of in and out just because I was still, asleep. But I really did like how I know they interviewed Doug Wilson while there were picks going on, and I know they had a graphic on screen even while that was happening. So I really like they did a good job of keeping everybody in the loop on what their teams were doing for day 2.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on, I suppose. Where's my notes? I'm the worst.
Well, I'll just touch up while you look that up there. Their merger with MLB Network has been, I mean, it's night and day now. The coverage overall, not just the draft, the coverage between last year and this year. And I was harping for years on Twitter about, because I think MLB Network is the gold standard of sports coverage, in my opinion. So having that marriage there, I mean, we saw it with the outdoor games where they built a rink in the studio, and now we're starting to see it with their actual programming. So I expect things to continue to go up with the network. Great job, guys.
All right, so to get things actually rolling now, we'd obviously start off. We're going to talk about the Sharks picks that they made. We're going to try and keep it kind of easy for everyone to process. So if we use some weird terminology, we're going to actually make an effort to explain what it means. So let's start with their second round pick, number 60, Dylan Grambrell, centerman from, I don't know, he's a centerman. He's from the University of Denver. Yes. Yep. Kevin, I guess I'll let you start with this one.
Well, I guess right off the bat, it was an eyebrow raiser because it was the first real off-the-board pick. I know that in day 1, Boston's pick at 29 was like, wow, okay, that came out of nowhere. But he was at least on most boards in the top 60, 70. Mm-hmm. The only board that I saw Gambrel on at all was Future Considerations, I believe, had him at like 91 or 80.
91, yeah, something like that.
So the Sharks have been known in the past to do things like this, but when it's your when it's your first pick in the draft, and there are still plenty of good names, and I'm sure we'll rattle some of them off here in a little bit. Yeah. I'd rather see that go to something a little more proven than Gambrel, and I don't mind Gambrel, but yeah, let's hear your guys' thoughts first.
Go ahead, Jerk.
Gonna be totally honest, he's not a name that I had heard really at all before this morning. But I did a little bit of looking into him. One thing that stood out to me, for me, my ideal center, regardless of what line you play on, is to be maybe 6'2", no shorter than that. And he's only 6 feet tall. Granted, he also has a lot of room to grow. I believe he's only 17 years old. And I mean, his stats at the University of Denver, say what you want about how unknown his name was, his stats there were pretty solid. 47 points in 41 games, and even in the USHL the year before, he had really good stats as well.
Yeah, I think my beef with Grambrell isn't that he was taken; it was where he was taken.
Right.
That's my big beef with the pick. I don't mind the pick, but the fact that he was taken when you had guys like, when you had some guys that were still on the board that were still, there's a lot of better players on the board. And the thing I don't like about him also is this is a D+2 player, which for those that don't understand that means draft year, he's 2 years past his initial draft year. So this guy is going to be 20 years old, I believe, next month.
In August.
In August.
6. I have it up right now. So
August. Yeah, so he's going to turn 20 in August, and to me, so he put up some good numbers, but he's also 2 years older than players that are probably putting up similar numbers that could have been drafted and that are going to have a higher ceiling. Like, there's only so much ceiling left when you're talking about a 20-year-old. That's the part that really bothers me.
That was a theme in the overall draft class for the Sharks this year.
I don't care. Yeah, that's dumb.
I'm just pointing it out.
No, it's good to point out, and it is a solid thing to point out because it's going to be a theme that we're going to come back to.
Yeah.
that's my issue with the pick. It's not that we took him, it's where we took him. You could have easily taken him probably with the 111 or the 150. You didn't have to take him with number 60. So that's my beef with the pick. But other than that, like, yeah, there's a lot to like about the player other than where he was drafted, like what position he was drafted in. To me, I liken this to last year's Mike Robinson pick. I just didn't understand it. Mike Robinson
beat me to it
in the third round. This is just another one of those weird picks. And no, again though, but there's a lot to like. Like I wrote a little bit about him today on Pucknology. There is stuff to like about this player, but I don't care. You shouldn't like where he was taken, and it should frustrate you to no end.
Yeah, Gambrell was on the top line as a freshman for the University of Denver. He was playing with Danton Heinen for most of the season. They did get to the semifinals of the Frozen Four. Part of me wonders if the Sharks scouts saw something in Gambrell when they were reviewing Gage Osmus during the Frozen Four, since North Dakota played Denver in that semifinal game. But Gambrell, being an undrafted player for last year
and the year before,
ranked above some other drafted players, not top-end drafted players, but guys like Quentin Shore and Troy Terry, who were expected to contribute to Denver. Danton Heinen, Gambrell's line mate, was the only one who had more points on the team than him. And like I said, Gambrell was a freshman, so that there is something to be said about his, especially his playmaking ability.
How do you feel about the NCHC as a division though in the NCAA? Because I'm not super high on it. Like I like Lake State, but it's not Hockey East. It's not the Big Ten.
Yeah, you just said it right. You said exactly what I was going to say. I am definitely... where is North Dakota fall? I'm not up to snuff on college hockey so much, but is North Dakota in the same division, or are they in Big Ten?
I think they're in...
Because
Chris
helps
out here. Chris, where are you in the chat?
Yeah. For the college hockey that I do watch, I really like the North Dakota program. Outside of that, to me, all the big programs are out east. So,
fair enough. I will look it up. Dirk, do you want to add anything to this while I look this up?
Something else that caught my eye as I was just looking more up on him. He did win the NCHC Rookie of the Month award in February. 13 points in 6 games, which, it's a small sample size, no doubt, but it's definitely encouraging for, like I said, especially people like me who don't know a whole lot about him. I mean, maybe he can be something,
Oh, sorry. And Chris just pointed out that North Dakota is in the NCHC as well. And again, I don't like. I'm not saying it's a terrible division. It's not the. I don't think it's not as good as other divisions. That's all. And I'm not a super college hockey guy. In fact, I'm a dumb college hockey guy. But I mean, just based on what little I know, I just feel like, when you look at like the Big Ten, especially Hockey East.
I was gonna say Hockey East definitely gets the most love.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know. That just could be because it's like Boston, and that's where all the media is. And
you brought up the point about where Gambrell was taken, and I don't know necessarily if they could have gotten him in round 4, but I definitely round 3 was doable for sure. And so obviously I'm not in with Doug Wilson, so I don't know what phone calls he may or may not have made, but I would have really, if that's the guy you were going, like the pick of Gambrell, clearly that's a guy you target. So if you're targeting Gambrell, you can't move down, get a 3rd and a 4th for that, and then still take Gambrell there, because I liked Marcus Niemelainen. Everyone seems to want defensemen on the Sharks. I don't blame you guys. I brought up the point actually last night on Pucknology After Dark that if your team can't develop defensemen, then you might as well just not draft a defenseman. But Niemelainen is a guy that I really liked, and then you could still get Gambrell later on.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like again, you're right. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you what would have happened if they didn't take him at 60. I don't see many teams taking a guy who's 2 years past his draft year, and you know, like
Yeah.
fourth round is kind of where that's where those kind of gambles start to make sense. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
All right.
Connor, I believe Connor Bleakley was his name.
Mhm.
Avalanche first round pick in 2014, and then here we are 2 years past his draft year, and he's going in the fifth round to St. Louis. I mean, that's a prime example of what you were talking about.
That's a perfect example actually, and it's sad for Bleakley. Like I like Connor Bleakley, but injuries definitely can slow a guy down. Okay, so moving on to our next pick, and this is one I actually liked a lot. Fourth
Yeah.
round, number 111 overall, Noah Gregor, another centerman, because apparently we needed centers. I guess I'll let you go first, Dirk, since Ken went first last time.
This was a pick that I really enjoyed. I mean, this again, the size I'm not a huge fan of, but it's something that I can, I guess, get over when you look at his stats, which were pretty good. Excuse me. Just about point a game pace with Moose Jaw in the WHL. Had a solid playoff run as well. Something that really stood out to me, though, and I get, the AMHL is a very lower tier league in Canada, but 2 points per game pace over his career there, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, I really, to me, like this is my favorite pick of the draft. In fact, I think this pick probably saved the draft for me. I would probably be spitting fire on the show if it was not for this pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this is a guy I really really like. He had a 73-point season in 72 games. I mean, you can't really go wrong with that. The Mooseheads are, they were a pretty good team. They had a decent run. He had a decent playoff run too. I like his game though. This is a guy who plays a 200-foot game. This is a guy that's going to go in the corners and go in front of the net and just take the beating. And he knows the beating's coming and he just doesn't care. And I like the acceleration. I like the work ethic, and I feel like this is a guy that could easily push his way through the depth chart, and not obviously next year, but in a couple of years, this guy's going to be fighting for this guy could be easily fighting for a spot on the Sharks, if not in a year or so, at least being a big part of the Barracuda. Well, he seasons more. I think that this is a guy I really like.
Definitely. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I really enjoyed this pick as well. I think of this guy as being a utility player, and what I say by utility player is Gregor comes off as the player that you can put on any line you want. Or if you need to add some grit to the first line, he can provide that. If you want to add a little bit of scoring to the third or fourth line, he can provide that. Like, I really like the flexibility that Gregor shows for the Sharks lineup coming down the line. He was a guy who was injured, I guess.
Yeah, he missed his entire first season.
Yeah, the 14-15 season, I guess he was injured. He put up decent numbers there in his brief time. So I wonder if that, for some reason, caused him to slide. Because this is a guy that, like you mentioned, if you flip-flop the picks, Gambrell and Gregor, that makes sense.
I hate this draft significantly less.
Yeah, I was going to say, Bob McKenzie had him at number 77, and he slid all the way to 111. So I think if the Sharks would have taken him at 60, I honestly don't think anybody would have bat an eye. I think he's a solid pickup, and like you said, Ian, I think he saved the Sharks draft.
Yeah, and the thing too, going back to that, I mean, you gotta figure that losing a whole year of development, he broke his collarbone and basically played 5 games, I think, his first year, and then missed a ton of games. I don't even know if he played again that season. And to come back from that and put up that kind of season, missing a year of development and just coming into the lineup and just being a factor like he was, he basically is like, okay, well, I missed my rookie year, but I'm going to come in now and be a top line player. Hope you don't mind. Like, I don't mind. This is an awesome pick. I love it.
He strikes me as a guy who's gonna, he's gonna slide under the radar, and then say he does make a big impact with the Barracuda, or he does come up with the Sharks, you're going to get all the people who are like, oh, I knew this guy win, and blah, 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 and all this stuff. But I think he can definitely be an under-the-radar guy.
Yeah, I was thinking, because I like his... he was on Canada's under-18 junior championship team. I wonder if he's going to be a guy who could crack the junior 20 team for Team Canada, but kind of be an underrated, under the radar guy, and it's get some goals, and then all of a sudden become a big name for Canada. If someone else struggles, Gregor just pushes his stock right up.
Yeah, this to me looks like this kind of reminds me a lot of the Chartier pick, who didn't have amazing numbers in his draft year and then just exploded the year after, and then and then was injured his final just this past year. But you can still see the tools are there. I think that this could easily become another Chartier where 2 years down the road we're going, holy crap, how did we get this guy at 111?
The one thing I do want to play devil's advocate on is he was on a line with Braden Point, who I love, and Dryden Hunt, who was an undrafted player that signed with Florida. Both of those guys are moving on to the AHL next year, so we'll know kind of right away, is Gregor gonna cut it, or is he gonna falter without those two high-producing players on his wings?
Anything else anyone wants to get in on this guy before we move on to the next guy? All right.
I just wanted to say, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to move on. So if you have something to say on Gregor,
it's actually not on Gregor. It's just that for those of you who go, why didn't we have some more picks at the upper half of the draft? You got to remember that we did trade the Sharks did trade their third round pick to get Max Latunov from UConn. That, in a way, is like a third round pick, right? I thought
that was next year's pick.
Yeah,
next year.
This year's third was for everybody's favorite defenseman, Brendan Dillon.
Yes.
Oh, geez, that's right. It was. Okay, never mind.
Shout out to Rocket Backhander.
All right, so in the fifth round at number 150, everything gets really less sexy as we go here. Obviously, when you don't have a first-round pick, this is what happens. The Sharks grabbed another center because, again, centers must be always. They grabbed Manuel Weger. Yeah,
this is a guy I really like. I like him.
Well, you know what? Then you can go ahead first.
I mean, he, same kind of thing, 2 years past his draft year, was born in 96. Just looking, he played in the queue with Moncton, had some solid stats. He was over a point a game. Something that really stood out to me, too, was in 17 playoff games this year, 12 goals and only 4 assists. So while he is listed as a center, I'm wondering if he can be a guy that's going to get shifted to the wing eventually.
Yeah, when I was looking at for things on him, a lot of the places I looked at for like scout reports and stuff listed him as center/right wing, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So, do you want to go on this, Kevin, before I rain on the parade?
Let me quickly jump on this. What I do like about Vieder is he seems really self-aware. He seems like a smart player. Which I guess is a theme because of the draft, because I heard Gambrel is a really smart, cognitive player. His under-18 numbers in Germany were incredible.
Yeah, they were.
Yep.
But this year in the queue, he was an overage player, and I wonder if he qualifies for an overage year next year as a 20-year-old, since he's only played 1 year in the queue. But overall, I don't know if he needs to carve out a niche as a grinder. But he certainly seems to know his place in the world, and be accepting of whatever role he's asked of. So that's what I do like about him. I'll be right back, guys.
Yeah.
And if you just... Go ahead, sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, just looking, his stats in the queue and at the World Juniors and in Germany, the goals are there, 2012, 2013, 69 goals in 22 games. But you also see is he racks up quite a bit of penalty minutes too. So I'm wondering if he's going to be that guy who, say, someone's giving it to Donskoy or whoever, he's going to jump in and be like, not so fast, dude, get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the one thing that I wanted to point out, and Kevin kind of hit on this. This is another guy that's overage who's playing in the German elite league, the Dell league. He played in the Dell 2 and then the actual league. So he went from basically playing with adults back to playing with teenagers. So you do kind of want to take the numbers with a grain of salt. The 29 goals, 35 assists, nice totals, but you kind of do want to take them a little bit with a grain of salt because you have a more developed player who's already played with adults going back and playing with kids. So I think that's something that at least should concern you a little bit as a fan. But you know what? This is a guy he's got wheels. He's got wheels and he's got the smarts to go with it. He's got decent vision, and and I just feel like this is a guy who never really did well over in Europe, like as far as numbers go. So I kind of, to me, this is one of those guys who just might be better suited to the North American game and doesn't really fit in the European game. So with him being, I believe he was a loan, so there's a good chance he could end up on the Barracuda next year. I don't think they have to send him back to the queue. I think it's a possibility, but they might just shove him in the bottom 6 on the Barracuda next year.
Yeah, he'll be able to go to the Barracuda because he was loaned to Moncton by the German league.
By Straubing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep his DEL numbers with a grain of salt, though, because a lot of times you get 17, 18, 19-year-old guys playing in those European professional leagues, and they're on the fourth line, and the way those leagues operate, their fourth line guys are lucky to get 4 minutes a night.
Yeah,
so,
right. But even like in the Dell 2, his numbers weren't amazing.
No, that's what in the Dell 2, yeah.
Like it wasn't like he didn't have super numbers really over until he moved over to the queue. He didn't really have big numbers in any of the, I didn't really notice any significantly eye-popping numbers over when I was looking up his previous years over in the Europe leagues, other than the World Juniors. Hey, buddy.
Something else that just popped into my mind too was I'm looking at his stats right now, and in the under 20 and the under 18 leagues he's played in, he's racking up a lot of points, and I fully attribute that to him being on their top lines.
Yeah.
But then he goes to the Dell or the Dell 2, and like you said, his stats are pretty underwhelming. So I'm wondering if he's a guy who's kind of like in the middle, kind of good, really good at the lower level, but can't crack it at the upper level. And so I'm wondering if, say the Sharks do send him to the Barracuda this year, providing they sign him, I'm wondering if that will help him, I guess, develop his game to play with older players.
He's a guy who has actually been quoted as saying, my transition to North America was a little rough, but I know what I need to do to get better, and I'm looking forward to the challenge. And like I said, it goes back to his smarts just as a person, a real character guy. So I feel like he's a guy that if he needs to make a niche as a grinder, he knows that he needs to do it, and he'll be willing to accept it.
Yeah, you know what? I don't hate this pick. I think there's a lot of buyer beware on this pick, but I don't hate it. I mean, it's a 5th-round pick for one, so
yeah.
It's hard to be too critical of, when you start getting to the 5th, 6th, 7th rounds. It's hard to get to be really critical, but so it's not. I don't think it's a terrible pick. I just think that it's not,
and
as
it's
well
not
as it should be in the 5th round.
It's not a Kai Hospelt pick where Kai Hospelt never has left Germany. Kai Hospelt was drafted 10 years ago and has always been in Germany. And I think Dominik Bielke was also a German player that we drafted that never came over. So with Vitor already being in the queue, we don't have to worry about that factor.
And Chris Edwards just reminding us that Dell and Dell 2 are with guys who have been playing pro hockey as long as he's been alive. So,
right,
yeah, we do. It's kind of a little bit of slack. I don't hate the pick. I'm not excited about it either. I think it's a pick that I'd like to watch. Is it going to be Is it going to be awesome? It might be, but it might also be Nikita Yellow. Help me, Kevin.
Yes, Blavs.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah,
that's all right. Yeah, so I kind of wonder I kind of wonder if that's the app comparison. Like, do we have something special, or do we have, But the Sharks have done a good job drafting from the European leagues guys that have, are better, that should be better in the North American game. You've got Noah Rod in the system. You've got Balsers, who also is another guy who I think is going to adapt to the North American game very well.
Yeah, I agree with you on Balsers, actually.
Yep.
All right, so moving on, as I'm being told to read a book, but I'm not going to.
read the draft from top to bottom. Pick
guys,
number 1.
Do you guys want
pick number 3? Sorry, I'm still not over that. Oh, there we go.
I could read you this. Here you go, buddy. Okay, so the 6th round pick, number 180, and this is exciting for me because this is a guy from the OHL, which means I still have a prospect I can watch. Unfortunately, it's Mark Shoemaker. Not exactly an exciting pick, a defenseman finally, but this is just a big, this is a big stay-at-home defenseman, a little bit of adventure outside of his own zone. He's got some tools. He's kind of raw. He's got some tools. I don't hate the pick. I was hoping that if we're getting draft from the OHL, it'd be someone a little more exciting to watch other than, oh, look, he's going to hit that guy over in the corner there and then pass the puck.
Something that stood out to me was pretty, like you said, stay at home, so pretty underwhelming stats, only 13 points in 67 games. But he was a plus 14, which makes me kind of, I guess, cross my fingers that he's going to be someone who won't necessarily get burned all the time.
Right.
But he also was a -8 in the playoffs in 11 games. So
who did North Bay play, though? I can't remember. I should know this. I feel like they played someone that should have rolled them, though.
Yeah, possibly.
Give me a second. I'm gonna look that vamp.
I don't have a lot for you guys on Mark Shoemaker. He's a big, he's a big guy. He's already 210 pounds. He's an older 18-year-old who barely missed qualifying for last year's draft.
Yeah, only I think like 2 weeks.
Yeah, actually less than that. But I don't have much for you guys. He was not in any of my draft info. As far as I know, he was 188 on Hockey Prospect and not rated on McKean's or future considerations, any of that. So I don't have a lot for you guys on Mark Shoemaker.
It's like one of those. It's a typical Doug Wilson pick where you have to have your big stay-at-home defenseman in every draft. Just to go back to that, the Battalion defeated the Peterborough Petes in the first round in 7 games and then got absolutely smashed by the Barrie Colts in the next round.
Oh, well, there you go.
Something
having Kevin LeBlanc and Dylan Sadaway, and they were just really good.
Something that kind of stood out to me too, and I don't know, a little disappointing, but despite the name, he's not a Shoemaker, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that upset me a lot. Look, I haven't really. I'm not going to lie. I mean, the Battalion's not really a super team that I must go see, so it's not usually. That's a game I generally pass on. I won't pass on in the future. Obviously, I haven't seen a ton of them to really. I know a little bit about him. I've seen him limitedly. He doesn't. He's a guy that if he stands out, it's probably not good. It's he's better when you don't notice him, and that's probably the best thing I can say about him, which shouldn't excite anybody too much. But I mean, if he turns into a bottom pair NHL defenseman that can shut guys down, then so be it.
Yeah, he was a 6th round pick, which isn't supposed to open any eyes at all, really. So like you said, if he can make it to the NHL as a bottom 6 defenseman, I'm fine with the pick.
Yeah. All right, and last but not least, at 7th, number 210, second last pick of the draft, we got Joachim Lichfeld, Danish gentleman. I don't know squat about him. Here's what I do know. This is what I wrote on Pucknology today. Basically, all I can do is I can look at stats for this guy, and this is a 17-year-old who was playing in the J20 system of the Swedish Elite League for the Malmo Redhawks. So I mean, that right there I like. obviously. He's a 17-year-old playing, obviously a league ahead of where he should be. Still managed to put up 15 goals, 13 assists in 45 games, which is pretty good considering the ice time he's probably getting.
Yeah.
He's represented his country in the U18. Again, 12 goals, 3 assists. I don't know who plays in that bracket of the, because it is Denmark, so I don't know if they play in the same. I don't know if it's broken up when you get to the U18s. I know sometimes some of them are weird. They get broken up into different pools. But I can't really tell you anything about him other than from his stats. So I couldn't really grade this. And go ahead.
Okay, so Joachim Blichfeld, he's obviously, like you just said, he's a Danish player that played in Sweden this last year. We have to watch ourselves with that pick because the Malmö Redhawks are not. They don't have really any success in the top tier of the Swedish Hockey League. They don't really have a strong J20 system either.
So I should be less impressed.
Yeah, the only guy on that team that I would have thought have been drafted at all is their goalie Tim Holtstrand, which I would have actually been fine with that pick. Holtstrand was amazing for them in the J20 playoffs. He had a .951 save percentage, and I think he's slated to be the backup. But enough of him because we didn't draft him. There are some guys who have come out of Malmö, like Franz Nielsen and Carl Söderberg. Recently, Andre Burakovsky and Rasmus Andersson, who was a Flames early second-round pick, if I recall. So they do produce some talent, but there are far stronger systems in Sweden. So that pick is all right. But you do bring up a good point that he was only 17 years old. He'll be 18 here soon. But he was playing in a league ahead of where his progress probably should be. So we'll see. We'll see. At 210th.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very low risk.
But yeah, there's that system outside of Holtstrand. They do have actually a really promising Slovakian player, Martin Fehervary. Say that 5 times fast. But he's not. He won't be drafted until 2018. So they do have a few guys with, that they can surround Blichfeld with. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's an okay pick.